Hello, everyone. I am Brady Briggs here for another episode of the Combat Logic. Joining me back, my co-host Tyler Avery. How you doing, Tyler? It's nice to talk to you again.
Good. Nice to talk to you, man.
All right, so the first fight we got going on the prelims: Steve Garcia versus Charlie Oliveros in a lightweight bout. Now, something I want to point out about this: Charlie Oliveros has been a lifelong welterweight, but he fought his last fight at middleweight. Steve Garcia has been a featherweight most of his career. So they're meeting in the middle. And Ontiveros has decent striking. We didn't really get to see much from him in the Kevin Holland fight because, Kevin Holland just ragdolled him and then ended up injuring him. For those of you who don't know, that's who Charlie Ontiveros is, that kid. Garcia hasn't been able to fight since his decision loss to Luis Pena early last year. So both these guys are definitely looking to get a win.
Yeah, definitely Charlie is definitely trying to get a win. Looking at his record,
It's
he's
not good.
11-7.
Mm-hmm.
So this might be a do or die fight for him. I think potentially, I don't know for a fact, but Steve Garcia, maybe if you were looking from the outside looking in, you might be underestimating Charlie. But
Yeah.
I think it'll probably be a good fight.
He could be. Charlie's really slick, man. Like we didn't see anything of his ground game, and it doesn't say much to get out wrestled by Kevin Holland. But Holland is a lot bigger than him.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm interested to see him on the feet. I think Garcia is going to take it, but it should be interesting.
The weight difference is interesting too. On,
Dude,
on
it
the
is.
on the UFC app, it registers Steve Garcia as bantamweight, and then it registers Charlie Ontiveros as
Really?
middleweight. Yeah, it's weird. It may
I can
be a typo, but
I can
uh,
see why they'd register on Averos as a middleweight. Oh, Steve Garcia has fought at bantamweight before.
which is which is a crazy
That's
matchup
even
that they're in.
crazier.
Yeah, bantamweight versus middleweight. I was thinking that while you were
Dude.
saying that, and I'm like, that's kind of crazy. Yeah, I kind of have to put that in as a factor for
Yeah, man.
Charlie Ontiveros.
That's crazy. He's only 2 inches taller. Steve Garcia, dude, he's a big fucking bantamweight if he's fighting a bantamweight. He's 6 feet tall.
You're telling me,
Jesus
man.
Christ. I mean, I'm a 6 foot tall bantamweight, but fuck, I'm not a pro fighter.
Yeah, and I'm not really
Charles,
sure how much muscle he carries into the cage, but
right.
I'll be curious to see how he looks next to Charlie Ontiveros.
For sure. Yeah, me too, man. That's actually a pretty good opener. I'm glad they gave Ontiveros another shot after losing his debut. It's probably because he
Yeah,
filled in on short notice. But
for sure.
next up, Charles Rosa and Damon Jackson. Well, actually, I should give these ladies a show. I've never seen either of them fight, but Lupita Godinez will be fighting Silvana Gomez Juarez in the second fight of the night. Charles Rosa versus Damon Jackson is the third. How do you see this one going?
It's hard for me to pick a winner on this one, but
Yeah, me too. Really hard.
to be honest, both guys I feel like are tough, pretty experienced overall fighters. If you look at like their whole career, they've
Mm-hmm.
been around for a while. I'm not really sure. If I had to pick, I'd probably edge this one to Rosa, but I'm not sure.
I think I would edge it to Rosa too. I mean, he's got underrated striking. And he's an absolute wizard on the mat. He's
Yeah,
not the type of person like Brian Ortega, like that'll submit anyone as long as he hits the mat with him. But he's pretty fucking good there.
he's more
And
well-rounded than people give him credit for.
yeah, for sure. Especially with all the time he's been forced. Like he was forced like 3 or 3.5 years away with injuries without fighting once. Now he's gone like 2-2 since his return, I think. Damon Jackson has gone 1-1 in the UFC since his return. He was getting absolutely mauled by Mirsad Bektic until he submitted him. I was so sad about that, but it's such a great win for him. And then he got knocked
Absolutely.
out by Aaliyah Tuporia, who's like one of the better prodigies in the sport right now. This is a very hard fight to pick. Their striking is kind of hard to say. I think Rosa would take it on the feet, and I think he would take it on the ground. But Damon Jackson has surprised me before.
Right.
Next up, we got Alexander Romanov and Jared Vandera. Now, Vandera is 12-5. I think he's 1-1 in the UFC. Romanov is 14-0, and I think he's 3-0 in the UFC with 3 finishes. Actually, he's 3-0 in the UFC with 2 finishes. His last win is over the Ultimate Fighter winner, Juan Espino. I think Romanov's probably going to take this one, but what do you think?
I this is another one where I have to say I'm not totally educated completely on the fighters, but I mean Alexander Romanov is on a 14 fight win streak, as you can
Yeah,
see. So that's
very
obviously a
good.
lot of hype. So that's a factor. And Jared Vandera is going to be looking to hijack some of that momentum.
Mhm.
Um, and give Alexander Romanov his first win or his first loss, I should say.
That'd
And
be huge for him.
yeah, yeah, it would be a big deal. I mean, taking out any undefeated fighter this far into their fighting careers, being undefeated, like that's kind of hard to even imagine, to be honest.
It is.
But like being undefeated for that long, uh,
Mhm.
it just really seems like a hard test to maintain over time. It's just more pressure with every fight. You're only gonna
Especially with as
be better
hard as
guys.
heavyweights hit.
To maintain a undefeated record for that long, you either have to be fighting guys who aren't as good as you, or you really have to believe you're the best, because that's a
Mhm.
lot of pressure from fight to fight to fight to be knowing you're going to be fighting better and better and better guys, and to just keep getting the win and keep getting the win, keep getting the win. It just for me that seems like it'd be a lot of pressure.
Yeah, yeah. Romanov hasn't fought the very best of the best yet, but his first three fights, Rook Martinez, Marcos Rogerio de Lima, and Juan Espino, they're decent opponents for his
Yeah,
first three.
the last two especially,
Hmm?
I think his last two wins, well, especially like Juan Espino, I feel like that's a good win for him.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Espino is pretty good. Romanov has placed in worlds and wrestling before. Like he's a talented martial artist.
Absolutely.
Headline in the co-main event is Chris Gutierrez and Felipe Colares. Now, this is an interesting one because Colares, I'm pretty sure, is coming off a win over Luke Sanders. I was really hoping Luke, yeah, he is. I was really hoping Luke would win that fight, but he's 2-2 in the UFC. And then Chris Gutierrez has been on a tear lately, man. Like his kicks of all sorts, especially his leg kicks, are just like are almost second to none in this game. Like he's so technically sound on the feet. What do you see happening in this one?
Yeah, if if it just stays in kicking range, it's hard not to say that Chris Gutierrez will take it. He is pretty snappy.
Yeah.
Felipe Colares is a pretty good martial artist as well. Who was his last fight? I'm trying to remember who his
Felipe
last
Luke
fight was.
Sanders.
Okay, yeah, he fought Luke Sanders. Yeah, I think that Chris Gutierrez is going to take that one. Uh,
Yeah,
like you said, he's on a tear.
me too.
His kicks are kind of unmatched in at least his part of the division right now.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, he's 4-1-1 in the UFC. His only loss was in his debut to Hayani Barcelos, who's a really good fighter that no one
Right.
knows who he is. Opening up the main card, we got Sabina Mazo and Maria Agapova. Both of these girls are 2-2. They both had success in the UFC. They both had some falls. Um, what do you think happens in this one?
Yeah, Sabina Mazo, I think, is a tough fight for a lot of girls because she's really like long and awkward kind of. I don't know what it is. Like the way that she fights is just I feel like hard for people to put their finger on her. And she's also she gives me the vibe that she's a really hungry, motivated fighter too. I'm not
Yeah.
sure what it is. Something about her, the way that she fights, and uh, I'm kind of a fan of Mazo. I don't know a ton about this other girl. They have the same record. Um,
Yeah, they're both 9-2. Yep.
I think Mazo's fought in the UFC how many times now?
I think she's 3-2 in the UFC.
Okay, so she's more than likely going to be
Yeah, she
slightly
is.
more experienced as far as UFC fights go.
Yep,
So if I had
she
to
is.
put money on one, I'd say Mazo.
Yeah, I think Malzo takes it. She's 3-2 in the UFC. Maria is 1-1 in the UFC. She got a finish and got finished.
Right.
No,
She
next.
has some unique abilities, I think, Mazo.
Yeah, man, me too. I think she's got a pretty bright future in the sport. I've thought that since the first time I saw her fight, and that was a loss, but I saw some talent there.
Right.
Next up, it's Tim Elliott and Matthias Nicolau. No, this is a really interesting fight. All Tim Elliott fights are because you never know how they're gonna go. He is literally the best in the world sometimes. but at other times he just gets beat by people he shouldn't. I don't understand, but he's a really good fighter, man. Like he came closest to beating Demetrius Johnson before Demetrius lost. Like no one expected that either. He almost choked him all. And then Nicolau just made his return to the UFC in his last fight, beat Ryzen champion Manal Kaur. A lot of people thought he didn't beat him, but he shouldn't have even been cut from the UFC to begin with because he went 3-1 in his initial start. Now he's 16-2. I'm pretty sure Elliott's like 16-11 or something. Like I said, he loses a lot of fights you'd think he would win, but he also wins some fights you wouldn't think he would.
Well, sometimes when people get cut, you have to consider sometimes it's because they're not getting paid what they want, and it's contract fees as well. It's not always just fighting ability or if they're ready or not.
That's a good point. Tim Elliott's actually on a 2-fight win streak too. I didn't know that. That's pretty awesome. His last loss was Brandon Royval, and that was a really back and forth fight. His last loss before that was Askar Askarov. That was a very close fight. Then he got submitted by the former champ rather. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. This one's really hard to pick. I think Elliott's very, very unorthodox on the feet. Like he's almost like Charles Rosa on the feet, honestly, with the kicks he throws, like the side kicks and the weird punches, weird angles. And then his entries for takedowns, you can switch stances like TJ Dillashaw does when he's striking, he does when he's wrestling.
Right.
So fun to watch. And his scrambles are really good. And then Matheus Nicolau, he's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with really good kickboxing. I really don't know how this fight goes. I wouldn't bet on it.
Yeah, I have a theory / opinion about why sometimes it's so hard to pick a winner in fights sometimes. I feel like in some cases, the reason why it's so hard to pick winners in some fights is because when fighters are so unorthodox like Tim Elliott, it's almost like being a specialist. Even though he is well-rounded, his style, the way he moves is a specialist. He's almost a specialist in a way. It's so unorthodox. I feel like in a way, you don't know how he's going to match up with someone until he's there. You don't know who to bet on because you don't know until the first round happens and you see their styles clash together. It's really hard to put your finger on what you think is going to happen. It's such an unorthodox style. It's hard to just simulate it in your brain. When you have two people who are textbook orthodox fighters that go by the book on everything, where there's to their stance and footwork, everything all around standard kickboxing.
To replicate.
When they're just textbook about everything, you can kind of simulate it in your head a lot easier. You can guess what's going to happen, and you can kind of imagine how their styles are going to clash in your head fairly accurately. When you have someone unorthodox, you don't know what they're going to do. They're so unpredictable. How could you ever really make that kind of a decision?
That's so
you never
true.
know.
Maybe that's why.
That's why he wins fights, and he looks like he's the best in the world, and that's why sometimes he looks not so great. It's because when you're that unorthodox, styles make everything with the fight because you're a specialist. Just like with a specialist with BJJ, styles make everything. With Damian Maia, he can destroy some people, and some people there's no chance of him beating. His styles make fights when you're that much of a specialist.
Yeah, that's such a good point. That's really interesting observation. You're right, because and another thing, it's so hard to find people to replicate it. Like I don't know if there's anybody that can replicate Tim Elliott in the gym.
It's the worst ones to bet on is the unorthodox fighters because they're so unpredictable. They could lose out of nowhere by accident, or they could win in the most ridiculous fashion possible and just dominate. Just how their styles match up with their opponent means everything to a specialist.
Yeah, it's so crazy. It's so crazy. Tim Elliott actually knocked out Jens Pulver with a flying knee before he came to the UFC. I don't know if many people know that. That's
and he had one of Demetrius Johnson's hardest fights of his career.
And no one expected that. Someone that went 0-3 in his last 3 UFC fights, won a regional title. Well, it wasn't a regional title, but it's not a world title. And then he comes back and gives him one of the toughest fights when he's like 13-6. No one expected that. It's crazy.
People don't understand that when you're that unorthodox, styles make fights. You can be dominated by all the other regular technical fighters that have a certain style that doesn't work good for him, and then he gets the guy that's good against his style, and he's a world beater. That's just
Yeah.
how it works.
Yeah, it's super interesting. I can't wait to see how this one goes, man.
Absolutely.
Our co-main event is between Randy Braun and Jared Gordon. This is another good fight. Now, Randy Braun is one of the guys I've had a lot of hype for. He's 31 years old now. That's kind of surprising to me, but he's 6'3" with a 78-inch reach
Yeah.
at 170 pounds. He's actually pretty well rounded too. He's got good grappling. He's got decent striking. It's coming along. And Jared Gooden's got good striking too. That's the only thing I've really seen of him thus far. But this is going to be interesting. I think Jared could definitely pull off the upset and take his fight, but I'm going to hope that Randy Braun takes it because I think he's got a little bit more of a future in the sport. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the odds are for this fight, but I agree with you. I feel like Randy Braun is probably the going to be the favorite in this if I had to guess. And in my head that probably makes sense. Randy Braun has kind of fought a lot of tough guys. He had a tough loss while on top of he just fought. He was the one who got knocked out from on top with Nico
Oh yeah,
Price.
by Nico Price. Yep.
Yeah, and that was a tough one because it looked like he might have won that fight
Yeah, he was winning it. Yep.
you didn't see if you didn't know that was gonna happen and you watch that fight,
Crazy.
you think that maybe he was gonna take that one.
Yeah.
Um, Randy Brown's he is really well rounded, explosive, long, rangy, only getting better, I think.
Yeah.
I pick him to win this fight, but I wouldn't put it past Jared Gooden to pull off an upset either.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. But what's really surprised me about Randy Braun is his last three fight. Well, his last three wins. I mean, he got knocked out by Vicente Luque in his second to last fight, but he finished Brian Marina, which
Yep.
the only person to do that prior was Vicente Luque. I'm pretty sure he's still the only other person to do it. He submitted Warley Alves off his back, which was very impressive. Warley Alves is the only guy to beat Colby Covington, and he submitted him
Yeah.
aside from Kamaru, obviously. And then he submitted Alex Oliveira in his last fight in the first
Which
round.
matters.
Yeah, man. Like those are three really, really good wins.
And yeah, Randy Brown doesn't have a ton of fights overall as a pro, but really everyone that he fights, whether they're kind of um whether you think that they're that skilled or not, they're all kind of like names that people know, and he's kind of gone for the jugular for opponents. He's not fighting, you know, anyone that doesn't have like a known good skill set. He's fought good
Yeah.
names this early. Regardless of his success level, everyone he's fought is pretty tough in my opinion.
And even though he's 31, he's got Jamaican blood in him. So I'm certain he'll be at his athletic peak for at least like another 4 years.
A perfect example of otherwise, I think, and this isn't a knock on him, but O'Malley fights people that people don't really know. They're good fighters, but you don't necessarily, they don't have an established
Name value.
skill set that and name that people recognize yet. You know what I mean? They don't have like a large amount of experience either. Randy Brown just goes right for the best name he can get, I think.
Yeah, he does. He does that a lot. And honestly, I think this might be like as far as name value goes, a step down from his last 5 fights or so. But he's just as tough of a matchup aside from like the Sene as his last 4 are. So
right.
And then the main event, we got Mackenzie Dern and Marina Rodriguez. Now, Mackenzie Dern, a lot of us were thinking maybe she wasn't going to live up to what we thought initially. Like she's the best female grappler in the world. So we were all thinking that she was going to translate that to MMA. And then she missed weight a whole shitload of times early on. And then she lost to, who'd she lose to? I think Amanda Hebus. And then, yeah, she lost to Amanda Hebus. And then she got pregnant and had to take a while off. And then since she's come back, she's gone 4-0 with 3 finishes. It's been very impressive. And then Marina Rodriguez, she's only lost once. I'm pretty sure it was a split decision. Let's see. Yeah, split decision to Carla Esparza. Since then, she's gone 2-0 with a TKO win over Amanda Hebus and a decision over Michelle Watterson. Yep. I really want Mackenzie Dern to win this fight, but I am having a hard time picking this one.
Well, finally, for once, we'll have a slight difference in opinion.
Yeah.
I think, and you heard it here first, I think that Mackenzie Dern is slowly becoming at strawweight in her physical prime. She's becoming Ronda Rousey 2.0. She literally dominates every girl in strawweight on the ground in her division. Period. She will,
Dude, I
in my
love that. It's
opinion.
so true.
And she's striking now.
Uh-huh.
She hits hard. She gets better every fight astronomically with her striking.
She's willing to throw it on.
It's literally unbelievable how much better she gets with every fight.
I agree.
Like she was at her first fight where she started coming out with her striking is where she got a really big knockout over that chick. Remember? I don't know if it ended up actually
I don't
being
think
a
she has a
knockout.
knockout.
It might have not ended up being a knockout, but in my eyes it was because maybe she got a submission in the end with it. She absolutely blasted a girl in the face when I thought she was going to be outmatched on the feet completely, and I forgot what the name of her opponent was, but that's where I saw her other side of MMA, her well-rounded skills start to come out.
Uh-huh.
And now she's becoming just like just a good striker.
Yeah, man. She's really tuned her boxing up well, man. And like I said, she's willing to throw it on. She also had 2 submission of the years last year. 2 candidates
Right.
for submission of the year last year. If Jimmy Flick didn't pull off that flying triangle, she would have got one of them. But yeah, man. Who do you think? Who do you want to win this fight?
I want Mackenzie Dern to win this because I want someone that I feel like it can be one of the best, and at strawweight I want her to keep winning, and I
Mm-hmm.
also think she's gonna win. Uh, I I normally wouldn't say that someone this deep in your fighting career is going to evolve new styles, but she is literally evolving her style into being a good striker. And if she can
Mm-hmm.
develop some Muay Thai, she already has decent boxing now. If she develops some Muay Thai and she utilizes the grappling like she does now, I feel like
Mm-hmm.
she'll be unbeatable at strawweight.
Yeah.
I don't
She's
know
al-
anyone at that weight that can beat her.
she's also pretty physically strong for a female flyweight. But
Only gets stronger every fight. Every fight she
yeah,
looks better.
as far as her evolving, I mean, she's still only 28 years old, man. She got into the sport where she was pretty young still, and it's very exciting to see, man. I see her being in her best for at least 3 or 4 more years too, or improving, continuing to improve for that long.
She's gonna keep shocking people, I think.
Yeah, yeah, me too.
She's gonna be
She's
physically stronger than Rodriguez, and if it goes to the ground, I think she's gonna take Rodriguez's neck or arm.
yeah, for sure, me too. I mean, she's 11-1. Rodriguez is 14-1-2. This is honestly, I don't usually like female main events too much, but this is
This
a
one
pretty good
I'm
main
okay
event.
with.
Yeah, I'm excited for this one for sure. I think that about wraps it up for today. Um, we got a video we're working on, potential future champs. You want to do that one tomorrow with me?
Yeah,
All
sounds
right.
good, man.
So y'all can look forward to that. And also, if you want to see, Tyler and I fought one another last Saturday at Street Beefs. I will put a link in the description below. All right. Have a good one, man. I will talk to you soon. Like and
Take it easy.
subscribe.